It is time for the first of our three title fights on this main card, and we're going to the women's flyweight division. Valentina Shevchenko makes the fifth defense of her belt up against Jessica Andrade, the former strawweight champion. Before we actually get onto the main fight itself, though, I want to talk a little bit about the women's flyweight division because this division has been largely maligned for a long, long time by a lot of fans. And yet here we are with a really compelling matchup with Andrade moving up. Obviously, she got that fantastic win in the first round up against Shevchenko. Are we starting to see the women's flyweight division finally come to the fore?
I hope so, and I think this matchup will tell us a lot. There's definitely, without question, Shevchenko's been a dominant force. She's arguably one of the best pound for pound fighters in women's MMA history, but even in the UFC. And in terms of like where you'd rank her in the pound for pound conversation, she is probably in the lower tier for me, just because I think she's, in terms of the competition, yes, she's run through her opponents, but since Nunes, like, she hasn't really faced a fighter that's going to pressure her, a fighter that's going to be strong, probably stronger than her. And I think Jessica Andrade presents a lot of those issues potentially. So I actually kind of like Andrade, and we can get into it a little bit more. But I think this is an interesting fight because where Shevchenko's obviously the more technical striker, she's not going to throw nearly as much volume. And we know Andrade's just going to move forward and pressure her and maybe land something heavy, maybe out wrestle her. So it just makes for a really interesting matchup. I think the line is a little bit wide here.
Do you agree with Jessica Andrade getting the title fight? Because as good as she was, obviously on a run as a strawweight fighter, there are people out there who think, hey, she's only fought in this weight class once. That shot should go to somebody who's been in the division for a long time and built a longer winning streak. Where do you personally stand on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely get it from a fighter's perspective. If you've been in that division, it's like, oh, you're going to give her a title shot after one win over Chikagian, which wasn't even that. Like, it was impressive the way she won, but I don't rate Chikagian all that high myself. But I actually am in the camp that give her the title shot because, like you mentioned, this division has been pretty boring. Jennifer Maya, you're giving her these people that she's just going to run through. And Maya actually looked a lot better than I expected her to look. But, just all the people that she's beaten on this run, it's like, she's minus 1,000 in a lot of these matchups. Like, we're not expecting them to be close. At least Andrade is going to make this a fun fight, a fight that fans want to see. Like, nobody wants to see Shevchenko fight these girls like Jessica I and Jennifer Maya. Like, it's nothing against them, but it's like she's going to dominate them. So at least this fight, she might dominate Andrade, but at least stylistically speaking, I think it's interesting. And I think that's what the UFC is kind of going after. They know this is a fight that will capture fans' attention at the very least.
Certainly so, and I totally agree with you when it comes to Andrade as well. I think stylistically, she has a lot of traits to her game which can cause Shevchenko a lot of problems because she is almost reliant on forward pressure. Everything that she does, it's powerful left hooks. I heard one person describe her as a mini Vanderlei Silva, and you can see that in the way she fights, just pressing forward, big, wild, swinging hooks, tries to engage against the clinch, and if she does clinch up with you, you're going for a ride. And Chookagian was massive compared to Jessica Andrade, and you saw the way that Andrade was just chucking her around, even before she got that liver shot knockout. So Shevchenko has a lot on her plate, in my opinion, here. And it's going to come down to how good her footwork is, how much her movement is. And if she's able to get those right, I think she's able to do what she normally does. But if Andrade is able to get that clinch and maybe land some of those big shots, we could see Shevchenko on the back foot a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's what's fun about this matchup is like at least we know Andrade is going to try to pressure her. It might not work, but we know she's at least going to go for it. And that's more than we can say for some of these other fighters that she's fought during her win streak here. So it's just one of those things where I think Andrade at least makes it a little bit interesting early on. if she doesn't get the finish early or doesn't have big moments or have any success early, then I think Shevchenko really starts to dominate as the fight goes on. Andrade probably has worse cardio here, especially if we think she really goes for it in the first round. So I think Shevchenko, as the rounds go on, probably looks like a big favorite. But again, I think it's going to be dicey in that first 5 or 6 minutes.
One of the big things as well with Andrade carrying so much power, I think part of the reason why Shevchenko has been so much more willing to grapple as a flyweight is because she's fighting girls that maybe don't carry that same sort of oomph in the way that someone like a Nunes or a Holly Holm was able to as a bantamweight. So she was able to engage in takedowns and go for these trips. Andrade is going to neutralize that. So we could see more of the old school Shevchenko staying on the outside, almost point fighting to an extent.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And that's something that I think we kind of alluded to, is that brute strength is going to play more in a division like this than it will at say, like, light heavyweight, where everybody's strong, and heavyweight where everybody's strong. A division like this, Jessica Andrade, even moving up a weight class and being a smaller, shorter fighter, couple inch reach disadvantage, she has that brute strength. And so it's definitely interesting, because I don't think Shevchenko is going to be able to bully her when it comes to the wrestling, unless Andrade gets gassed out. Maybe Shevchenko does later, but like you, I think we see more of a tactician approach from Shevchenko.
At the moment, the betting odds for this one have Shevchenko as a -400 favorite. You can get Andrade at +300. What's interesting for me is we always do polls on the main channel, looking at every single title fight that we have the week before. I was very interested to see that Andrade only has 5% of people picking her to win this fight. And when you bear in mind some of the other contenders to Shevchenko, that's lower than Jessica Andrade, that's lower than Caitlin Chukagian, that's lower than Felicia Spencer for her title fight in featherweight division. Are we getting a lot of people here just writing off Andrade just because of Shevchenko's name?
I think so. Like, I think, like we were talking about, the moving up in weight class, like it's funny, only 5% people give her a chance to win, but like based on the betting odds, she's what? Like, she's got like a 20% implied probability. So it's like it seems a little biased to be saying she's like a 95% to win. But yeah, I mean, I think we've already kind of laid out reasons why I would be cautious about saying she's that big of a favorite. But yeah, I think that probably plays into it. People are just like, oh, Shevchenko's the goat, or the female goat, and she's probably just going to dominate here. Andrade doesn't deserve a title shot, whatever the reasons may be. I think that might be playing into it. But yeah, I like the dog. Give me Andrade.
I'll be honest, I normally go with my logic when it comes to predicting title fights, but more like once every 10 or so fights, I go with my gut. And something tells me that Andrade is going to win this. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's fairly one-sided. Either a now wrestling clinch fest, where she just keeps chucking Shevchenko down, or she does land that big knockout punch. There's just something in my gut that says Andrade has got a very good chance of winning this fight, especially in those first 2 rounds.